And that's another thing. You're in the shower, or maybe you're driving. You're completely alone, but the argument from hours ago is still playing out in your head.
And then it hits you. The perfect comeback. The one that's so sharp, so undeniable, it would have ended the entire conversation right there. You know the one I'm talking about. The one where, in the theater of your mind, you don't just win. You deliver a closing argument so flawless, it gets a standing ovation. One might consider a mental acknowledgement. The victory is total. For a moment, you feel brilliant, vindicated, and perfectly understood. Is there a catch? The other person in this epic drama is probably just choosing a podcast for their commute, completely unaware they just lost a debate for the ages. First, if that sounds familiar, let me be very clear. This is not a flaw in your mind. It's a feature of its architecture. There's a hidden purpose behind these mental debates, and once you understand it, you'll stop seeing it as a strange habit. You'll see it for what it is, a sophisticated program trying to solve a very specific kind of problem. So what is that program? Psychologically, it's a powerful combination of a few different cognitive tools. There's a bit of what's called rumination, the mind's tendency to chew on a problem. There's also social simulation, where your brain rehearses future interactions to prepare for them. At its core, this whole process is triggered because your brain has flagged an issue, a deep feeling of unresolved conflict or a perceived threat to your social standing. And its only goal is to neutralize that perceived threat. Fundamentally, this process takes one of two forms. Either you're relitigating the past or you're pre-fighting the future. Let's give this internal space a name: the mental courtroom. In this court, you are the lawyer, judge, and jury for a case that is, in reality, already closed. This mental courtroom isn't just a metaphor, it's a recognized cognitive process. Dr. Ethan Kross at the University of Michigan describes this internal voice as chatter, the mind's attempt to coach itself through painful social events and regain a sense of control. But what's fascinating is how your brain treats this imagined drama. To your brain's ancient threat detection system, there's very little difference between an imagined social slight and an actual physical danger. It can trigger a low-grade but very real fight-or-flight response. Your heart rate might quicken, your muscles can tense up. That's the real physiological cost of these internal debilts, and it explains why they leave you feeling so completely drained. So why does the brain keep running this costly program? The answer is surprisingly simple. It's looking for a win. When you finally construct that flawless argument in your head, your brain releases a small burst of dopamine. It's a chemical reward for creating a sense of order and control out of emotional chaos. That feeling, as brief as it is, reinforces the whole loop. It's the brain's attempt at practice, at simulation. But there's a major flaw in this training program. Think of your mind as a flight simulator. A pilot uses it to rehearse a safe landing over and over until control and calm become instinct. But what if the pilot only ever used the simulator to replay a crash? Obsessing over the moment of impact, reliving every mistake. It wouldn't build skill, it would only deepen their fear of flying. Our mental courtroom often becomes that crash simulator. But this process isn't just about preparing for the future. So why does the brain get so stuck replaying the past? And this is where the true purpose of the mental courtroom reveals itself. When the argument is stuck replaying the past, it's rarely about winning. It's about trying to fix an outcome you can no longer change. The engine driving this replay is a powerful process called rumination. It's your mind getting caught in a loop. But the real target here isn't the other person in your head. It's an internal injury, that raw feeling of injustice, the sting of embarrassment, or the pain of being misunderstood. The endless argument is just the symptom of a deeper emotional wound that's trying to heal, and this cycle is a well-documented impact on our well-being. Research from leading institutions, including Stanford and Yale, consistently shows that heavy rumination is a powerful predictor of anxiety. The mental courtroom, in its attempt to solve old pain, can accidentally become a feedback loop, generating the very stress it was designed to resolve. But if it's so costly, what is the brain desperately trying to accomplish with this ritual? It's because winning the argument isn't the real goal. The goal is to finally receive the emotional validation you were denied in the real world. In the theater of your mind, you can finally be heard, understood, and acknowledged. This entire internal drama is a profound, if exhausting, act of self-soothing, restaging the moment it was inflicted. So let's reframe this entire habit. This isn't the sign of an angry or broken mind. It's the signature of a mind's architecture actively trying to heal itself. And that intention changes everything. This is where we can start to have some real compassion for this part of our mind. Think of it like a loyal guard dog that barks furiously at every falling leaf, convinced it's protecting the house from a genuine threat. The intention behind the noise is pure protection, but the execution, that constant internal alarm, can be completely exhausting. And I know what you might be thinking. Okay, that's a nice reframe, but this habit still feels incredibly unproductive and just makes me anxious. And that feeling is completely valid. When left to its own devices, the mental courtroom can trap you in a painful, exhausting loop. But understanding its architecture is the first step to changing our relationship with it. And that process starts by dismantling a central myth about what this internal theater actually represents. The core myth is that these internal arguments are somehow weird or dysfunctional. They're not. It's the same cognitive tool you use to daydream about a perfect vacation. It's just aimed at a problem instead of a peaceful beach. But this tool doesn't just replay the past, it actively changes it. Because memory isn't a perfect video recording, it's a reconstruction. Each time you run the argument in the mental courtroom, you're not just replaying a file, you're subtly re-editing the scene. Their expression grows more severe, their reasoning less sound. You do this to make your own feelings feel more justified. And this powerful drive to make the social world make sense often comes from a surprisingly positive source. That positive source is often a profound sense of justice. People who find themselves in the mental courtroom tend to possess high empathy. They care deeply about the texture of social interactions. This intense analysis isn't a malfunction. It's the signature of a mind that values fairness so much it struggles to let a perceived injustice go. And this very trait is a powerful diagnostic tool. This means the recurring arguments in your head are not the problem. They're a map. Each one points directly to your deepest values, the exact spot where a boundary was crossed or an emotional need went unmet. The subject of the fight is just the address. The real destination is the feeling underneath, a need for respect, a desire for security. The argument isn't the problem, it's simply a guide to the real work, and that's precisely where our focus needs to shift. So this isn't about trying to silence the mental courtroom. That's an unwinnable fight. It's about changing your role inside it, from the frantic lawyer to the calm observer. Here's how. The next time you notice the mental courtroom is in session, simply pause. Ask yourself one quiet question. What is the core feeling driving this argument? Is it feeling disrespected? Unheard? Afraid? The moment you name the underlying emotion, you shift your role from the frantic lawyer arguing the case to the curious observer watching it. This simple act of labeling disarms the emotional charge. It turns down the volume on the debate. And this new perspective confronts a difficult but liberating truth. You do not need to win this imaginary argument to validate your feelings. The relief you are so desperately searching for, that feeling of being justified, it simply cannot be found in crafting a better comeback inside your own head. It was never the prize for winning the case. Your feelings are valid all on their own, so you have permission to let the case rest. That feeling of being wronged or unheard doesn't need a guilty verdict from the mental courtroom to be real. You don't overanalyze. You possess a profound commitment to fairness. You are not broken. You are simply running an internal program designed for protection. And once we accept that, we can finally stop arguing. Perhaps the people in our heads are just characters in a play about our own needs. So the final question isn't how to win the case. It's this: what is your own mind trying to tell you that you've been too busy arguing to finally hear? After seeing these arguments are just a guide, what's the one core feeling your mental courtroom is really about? Tell me what you discovered in the comments below. This internal battle is just the start of a hidden pattern we all share. In our next video, we expose how it connects to why you might prefer texting over calling. Subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss the truth. Like if you learned something, and share this with someone who needs to finally rest their case.